The first thing I noticed was the nightstand. It was gone. I woke up with a crick in my neck and cracker crumbs stuck to my face, because that's what happens when you fall asleep on a couch eating snacks you swore you'd stop buying. I dragged myself into the bedroom, hoping to sneak in 5 more minutes before her alarm went off. But the nightstand was gone. Not moved. Not shifted. Gone. And in its place, where I'd kept my phone charger, my watch, and an unopened Father's Day card from my niece, was a fern. In a white ceramic pot, with one of those tiny chalkboard signs stuck in it that read, "Grow where you're planted." I blinked at it like it might explain itself. That was the first clue that something wasn't just wrong, it was warped. Like our marriage had slipped sideways and I hadn't noticed until the furniture got involved. The bed had been moved too. Shifted 6 inches to the left. Just enough so that my side was now flush with the wall. Like there was no room for me anymore. No space to slide back in. Even the pillows had been recentered. 2 instead of 4. When I confronted her. Okay, not confronted, more like awkwardly stood in the doorway asking, did you move everything?" She didn't answer. She was brushing her teeth. She met my eyes in the mirror for half a second, then closed the door. That was day 1. By day 3, she'd removed my coffee mug from the cabinet. I thought it was in the dishwasher. It wasn't. She'd given it to her coworker, apparently, the funny one from finance. I only found out because I saw it in a picture she posted online. Him holding it, smiling like he'd just won the lottery, the caption saying, "Morning fuel courtesy of a friend, beaming face with smiling eyes, hot beverage." That mug had a chip on the handle. I told her it reminded me of us, imperfect, but still holding together. Apparently, not anymore. The silence between us wasn't even tense anymore. It was just casual, like I was a tenant overstaying my lease and she was waiting for me to realize I didn't belong. She stopped texting, stopped saying goodnight. I was still taking out the trash, still paying the rent, still making dumb grocery lists like bananas, cereal, hope. But nothing. No reaction. No recognition. And every day, some tiny thing would go missing. Day 5, the blanket from my chair. Day 6, my shampoo replaced with lavender something or other that made my scalp itch. Day 8, my slippers were donated. I asked her once, just once, if we could talk. She put her AirPods in while I was mid-sentence. On day 12, I heard her laughing in the bathroom. I thought maybe she was finally watching that dumb cat video I sent. But when I peeked in, she was on the phone. With him. I didn't know it yet. Not for sure, but I could hear it. In her voice. That tone she used to use with me. That warm, sarcastic tone that meant, "I like you more than I admit." It wasn't mine anymore. But I still stayed. Even after she moved her stuff into the master closet and moved mine into the hall. Even after she removed my name from the mailbox. Even after she replaced our framed photo in the hallway with a print that said, "New energy only." I stayed. And then, on day 17, she used my name again. Not to talk to me. To label the box of my books she left by the door. And that's when I finally understood. I hadn't just been replaced. I'd been erased. So I did the one thing she never expected. I made sure she woke up alone the next day. And what I left behind was louder than any goodbye. I didn't pack loudly. I didn't slam drawers. I didn't throw a fit or leave some dramatic note like in the movies. I moved in silence, just like she taught me. It was 5:43 a.m. and the house was still. Cold. Uninterested. Even the fridge hummed with more emotion than she'd shown me in weeks. I didn't take much, a couple changes of clothes, my old laptop, my headphones, and the photo of my dog from when I was a kid. She hated that photo. Said it made the living room look emotionally cluttered. But I loved that stupid photo. It reminded me that I used to be someone who had something to love and something that loved him back. Before I walked out, I did one last thing. I opened the closet, the one that used to be ours but had been slowly colonized by her endless rows of beige sweaters and conscious capsule wardrobe items. I cleared a little space on the top shelf, folded up one of my flannel shirts, the one she used to steal on Sundays, and placed my wedding ring inside the pocket. Then I left. No goodbye, no text, no note. I just let the absence speak. Let the echo of everything she'd taken echo right back at her. The next 24 hours were disorienting. I sat in my car for a while in the parking lot of a 24-hour diner. I didn't eat. I didn't cry. I didn't even think, really. I just sat. At some point, I checked my phone. No messages. Not a single one. I could have been dead in a ditch, and she'd probably just reorder oat milk and shrug. I ended up crashing at my coworker's place. Boyd. Another strange name, I know. He's the kind of guy who owns a pull-out couch and 4 kinds of whiskey, but no clean towels. Still, he didn't ask questions. Just handed me a blanket, said, "Whatever she did, man, you're still here. That counts for something," and went to bed. But here's the thing. By noon the next day, everything changed. She called. 16 times. I watched my phone light up like it was on fire. First her number, then unknown, then blocked, then a string of messages. "Where are you? You just left? Answer me, Doyle. We need to talk. Please. This is childish. What is this stunt supposed to prove?" And then, the last one. "What the hell is this in the closet?" I didn't respond. I didn't have to. She knew what it was. I wanted her to open it. I wanted her to see the flannel, the ring, the silent middle finger wrapped in cotton memory. By evening, the calls stopped. That's when I knew she wasn't mad. She was spiraling. Boyd and I sat on the balcony drinking root beer out of chipped mugs, and I asked him, "Do you think she ever actually planned to end it? Or was she just waiting for me to break first?" He didn't answer right away. Just watched the sun go down like it owed him something. Then he said, "Some people don't leave. They push until you leave, so they don't have to feel like the bad guy." That hit like a brick. But what I didn't expect was what happened next. That night, I got an airdrop request from her. A video. It was 18 seconds long. No words. Just her sitting on our bed, holding the flannel, staring at the ring in her lap. Her eyes were red. She looked like she hadn't slept. And she was whispering something, over and over. I turned the volume up. It was my name. Just my name. Whispered like an apology that came too late. I watched that 18-second video at least 10 times, sitting on Boyd's terrible couch that sinks in the middle like it's trying to swallow you whole. Every time, I caught something new. The way she kept glancing off camera, like someone else was in the room. The wrinkle in the comforter near the edge of the bed, like someone had just been sitting there. The faint reflection in the dresser mirror, a shadow that didn't belong to her. But I didn't react. Not yet. I'd spent 17 days reacting to everything she did, like some loyal puppet hoping for crumbs of affection, and I wasn't doing that anymore. I didn't answer her messages either. But at 2:14 a.m., my phone buzzed again. This time, a wall of paragraphs. Long ones. The kind she only sent when she'd been caught or cornered. "Doyle, please talk to me. I didn't know you'd take it that way. You shouldn't have left like that. I didn't mean for things to get so distant. Nothing happened. Not the way you think. I miss you. We should talk in person. There's a lot you don't understand." Right. The classic, you don't have the full picture. Like I hadn't been living in that picture, slowly fading out of it. By morning, I had 12 more messages. Her tone went from soft to demanding to strangely defensive. I recognized that tone. She used it when she was crafting a lie while trying to look honest. A weird talent she developed long before the silence started. But I still didn't answer. Instead, I finally did something for myself. I took a long walk around the block in clothes that didn't smell like old anxiety. And while I was out, she did something stupid. She emailed me. My wife never emailed me. Ever. So when I saw her name in my inbox, the panic in my chest didn't feel like heartbreak. It felt like confirmation. The subject line was, "Please delete this. Please." No body text. Just an attachment. A screenshot. From her own phone. And that screenshot, that was the moment everything snapped into focus. It was a message thread. Her and someone named R. Just an initial. No emoji. No picture. But the tone was unmistakably intimate, casual, and old. Like they'd been speaking long before she stopped speaking to me. The visible part of the thread was enough. R. Did he take the hint yet? Her. He's starting to. He slept on the couch again. R. Good. The distance will do the rest. Her. I just need him to be the one to leave. R. And he will. Keep going. He's too soft to fight back. Her. I know. That's why this has to be quiet. I felt my knees weaken. The kind of weakness you don't recover from in one breath. Their plan, the coldness, the silence, the rearranged bedroom, the disappearing personal items. It wasn't accidental. It wasn't emotional drift. It wasn't stress or burnout or a communication issue. It was a strategy. A literal, deliberate strategy to make me walk away so she wouldn't have to confess anything. And that wasn't even the worst part. Below the screenshot, before she realized she attached the wrong file, there was a notification banner from the same person. Are he gone yet? I want you here tonight. I didn't throw my phone. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I laughed. A pathetic, shaky laugh that sounded more like a wounded animal trying to pretend it wasn't dying. Boyd walked in and saw me sitting at the table, staring at the screen with that stupid laugh still echoing. He didn't even ask what happened. He just said, so it's that kind of story. And then my phone rang. Her again. But this time, the caller ID wasn't her number. It was a FaceTime request. She'd never FaceTimed me before. Not once in the entire marriage. And I don't know why. Maybe curiosity, maybe self-destruction, but I answered. The screen opened. And behind her, sitting on our couch, legs casually crossed like he belonged there, was the man whose initial was R. He had his arm resting along the back cushion like he owned the place. My couch. The one I carried up 3 flights of stairs because Darla liked how it looked vintage. Now it looked violated. I could see the faint stain from when I dropped curry takeout during movie night last spring. He was sitting right in front of it, legs crossed, relaxed, like he wasn't in another man's home but in his. I didn't say anything. Neither did he. Darla spoke first. Doyle, she said, calm like she was reading off a customer service script. I think we need to talk face to face now. You've been very reactive, and I get it, but this isn't healthy. That word. Reactive. Like I was having a tantrum. Like I wasn't justified in feeling like I'd been emotionally starved, ghosted, erased, and then replaced while still paying for her shampoo and oat milk. I clenched my jaw so hard I thought my molars might crack. Behind her, R, the guy with the couch confidence, gave a smug little nod at the screen. That was it. Just a nod. The kind you give a waiter after they refill your water. It was the most disrespectful acknowledgement I've ever received. So I did the only thing I could think of. I flipped the camera. Now they could see the table I was sitting at. And on it, their screenshot. The messages. The proof. The little digital blueprint of their plan to emotionally exile me from my own marriage. The betrayal they tried to keep soft and unspoken, like it wouldn't count if no one yelled. Darla's expression didn't even break for a second. Her voice lowered. I didn't mean for you to see that, she said. Not, I'm sorry. Not, it's not what it looks like. Just, you weren't supposed to catch us. R leaned in, squinting at the screen. So what now, man? You gonna post it online or something? His voice had that tone, the one arrogant guys get when they think they've already won. No, I said. My voice cracked. I hated that it cracked. I'm not going to post anything. I'm not trying to ruin anyone. Darla exhaled, visibly relieved. I let that moment stretch for just a beat too long. I'm just going to make sure you ruin yourselves. Then I ended the call and immediately backed everything up. I'm not techie, but I'm paranoid. I emailed the screenshot to 3 accounts. I printed copies. I even made a physical notebook with notes, dates, and timelines. Boyd helped. He said it was like I was building a case file for a war I didn't want, but had already been drafted into. But here's the part that really flipped things upside down. The next morning, I got a call from her sister, Talia. Now, Talia and I were never close. She once called me beige wallpaper to my face at Thanksgiving. But when I answered the phone, she sounded panicked. Doyle, she said, what's going on? Darla just told Mom you're mentally unstable and might try to publicly lash out. She said you're harassing her. I almost dropped the phone. What? She's rewriting it, Talia whispered. She's trying to get ahead of something. Did something happen? I told her everything. Slowly, quietly, no theatrics. And Talia didn't hang up. She didn't defend her sister. She didn't say there's 2 sides. She just said, meet me tomorrow. I need to show you something. Then she added, you're not the first. And that was when I realized I'd only scratched the surface. Talia met me at a diner 30 minutes from the city, the kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and sticky syrup bottles that never fully close. She was already there when I arrived, sitting with a folder in front of her and tapping her nails against the plastic like she was debating whether or not to hand it over. She didn't say hi. She didn't smile. She just pushed the folder across the table toward me and said, you're not crazy. You're just next. I opened it slowly, half expecting divorce papers or maybe a restraining order Darla had cooked up to control the narrative. But it wasn't that. It was worse. Inside were screenshots, printed photos, and handwritten notes. Different names, different men, different versions of the same playbook. Silence, manipulation, gaslighting, detachment, then the slow erosion of the man's sense of self. followed by a quiet exit that left Darla looking innocent to the outside world. Talia pointed to one page in particular. A man named Jesse. Apparently he'd been with Darla before me, long enough to talk about marriage, move in, even get a dog together. According to the screenshots, Darla had pulled the exact same trick on him. Stonewalling. Emotional distance. Strategically pushing until he left. Only difference? Jesse didn't disappear quietly. He ended up in therapy for a year after she smeared him through mutual friends, calling him controlling and obsessive. He didn't even realize until later that she'd been seeing someone else the whole time. There were 3 other names in that folder. 3. She never lets herself be the one to leave, Talia said, finally making eye contact. Because then she can rewrite it. She turns it into a victim story before the other person even knows they were being erased. I sat there in shock, holding the papers with trembling fingers, and for a second I couldn't even feel my legs. Everything I thought was my unique heartbreak, my isolated humiliation, was just a rerun. But why me? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Talia shrugged. You were easy. You don't fight. You explain. You forgive. It wasn't meant to be cruel, but it cut deeper than any insult. She handed me one final envelope. This one's from her laptop. She left it open last Thanksgiving when she went to grab wine. I took a few shots of the messages because something just felt off. I opened it and saw the photos. A series of emails between Darla and a contact labeled consulting. The tone was professional, but the topic? Disturbing. She was paying someone, not a therapist, but some kind of relationship strategist, to guide her through the exit. Literally coaching her on how to emotionally isolate me, trigger doubt, and eventually stage a departure that painted her as unfulfilled and unsupported. There were timelines, scripts, even suggested phrases to use like, I've outgrown this version of myself. It wasn't neglect. It was design. I sat there in that booth, surrounded by the smell of burnt coffee and old syrup, and felt the weight of it settle into my bones. She hadn't just fallen out of love. She'd engineered my silence. She'd sculpted it. I looked up at Talia, and she gave me a sad smile. You were just never supposed to catch on. But now that you have, what are you going to do? I didn't answer right away, because I didn't know. Retaliation felt hollow. Confrontation felt useless. But then I remembered something. My name was still on everything. The lease, the utilities, the insurance, the car. Darla had erased me from the bedroom, the walls, and the mailbox, but not from the infrastructure. And if she wanted to live her little narrative in peace, she was about to learn how inconvenient it is when the background character refuses to quietly vanish. So I stood up from that booth, tucked the folder under my arm, and said, I'm going to write my own version. And the first step? Taking everything back, starting with the keys. I called a locksmith at 7:02 a.m. on a Tuesday. He asked if I had proof I was the owner. I sent him a picture of my ID next to the lease agreement with my name circled. He didn't ask questions after that. He showed up 20 minutes later in a van that looked older than my car and replaced the deadbolt like it was just another Tuesday job, not the silent declaration of war it was. While he worked, I gathered everything she hadn't already claimed. The ring was gone. So was the framed photo from our wedding. But all the legal documents? Still in the drawer. The bank accounts, the car registration, the lease, everything was still under my name. That was the fatal flaw in her quiet little game. She played it like I wouldn't notice. Like I'd go away with nothing, thinking I had nothing. I left her one thing, a letter. Handwritten. Not bitter. Not angry. Just clear. Darla, you erased me one drawer at a time. One cold stare. One missing cup. One late-night walk. But you forgot the part where I'm still legally tied to everything you rely on. The car? Mine. The rent? Me. The Wi-Fi? Guess what? You've been streaming your new life on my account. So this is me, no longer playing the silent fool. The locks are changed. Your things are boxed. The lease ends next month, and I'm not renewing. I've taken my name off the joint account. The car will be gone by noon. I'm letting you keep the couch, since your guest made himself so comfortable on it. No need to call. There's nothing left to explain. You made your silence speak. This is mine. I placed it on the kitchen counter next to the mug she gave away, or so I thought. Turned out it had been under the sink the whole time. Hidden, like she couldn't even be bothered to throw it away properly. Then I packed the last of my things, called Boyd, and left. At 4:38 p.m., my phone lit up. Unknown number. I didn't answer. 5 minutes later, another call. Same number. Then a text. What the hell did you do? You can't just lock me out of my own life. Answer your phone. Another came through 30 seconds later. This is abuse, Doyle. This is illegal. I'll go to the police. That one made me laugh. The police? After everything? Then she sent a picture. It was of her, standing outside the door, suitcase at her feet, holding my letter in one hand, the other mid-fist against the doorframe. Her hair was a mess. Her expression, cracked wide open. Not rage. Not confusion. Panic. The silence she built around me had finally caved in on her. I didn't reply, but I forwarded the text thread to my lawyer. By midnight, Boyd and I were sitting on his balcony again, passing a bottle of off-brand whiskey between us. I told him everything, from the initial silence to the messages to Talia's folder. He didn't interrupt once. When I finished, he exhaled through his nose and said, "You know what I think?" She thought she could narrate the breakup so cleanly that it wouldn't leave a mark on her. You just gave her a scar. I stared out over the city and thought about that. She wanted a clean ending, a quiet, vanishing one, where I just slipped out of frame and she moved on without friction. Instead, she got a version where her lies are archived, her tactics exposed, her ending complicated. But it wasn't revenge. Not really. It was just me, finally turning the volume up on everything I'd swallowed for months. And she hated the sound of it. By Friday, the story started circulating. Mutual friends, her coworkers, even a few of my old college acquaintances started reaching out with weird, overly polite, "Hey, just checking in," messages. That's when I knew she was doing damage control. Darla was spinning it fast, and she was spinning it hard. According to her version, I had emotionally snapped. She said I'd stormed out in some dramatic, unhinged meltdown. Claimed I'd locked her out in retaliation after a simple misunderstanding. She painted herself as a confused wife who'd tried everything. Therapy, patience, communication, but just couldn't reach me anymore. Her voice in those retellings? So full of sorrow. So gentle. So utterly fake. I said nothing publicly. I let the whispers grow legs. Let them circle back to me in their warped little forms. Because I knew something she didn't. She wasn't the only one keeping receipts. It came from a woman named Lynette, someone I barely remembered from a 4th of July barbecue we'd gone to last year. She worked in the same marketing firm as Darla, only a different department. Back then, she'd complimented my potato salad and asked if Darla and I were planning a trip to Hawaii. I hadn't seen her since. But now she sent me a message that just said, "You don't know me well, but I know this isn't your fault. And I think it's time people saw the full story." Attached was a video. It had been recorded at the office. Darla didn't know she was being filmed. Probably didn't notice Lynette's phone on the desk, slightly tilted, camera running. The footage showed Darla in full confidence mode, leaning against a chair in the break room, laughing with someone off-screen. And the words that came out of her mouth. "Oh, he'll leave. He's too passive not to. I don't even have to do anything. Just stay cold. Stop engaging. Eventually, he'll walk. And I won't look like the bad guy." Laughter. R's been a good distraction in the meantime. Once Doyle's out of the picture, I'll move in with R. Then it's just a matter of reshaping the narrative. He doesn't fight. That's the upside of marrying someone who hates conflict. More laughter. I watched it once. Then twice. Then I forwarded it to Talia. She posted it to her Instagram story with no caption. And that's when everything burned down. My phone exploded. Not literally, but close enough. Messages. DMs, missed calls. People asking if the video was real. Apologies from friends who'd believed her version. Even her boss, reached out asking if I'd be willing to speak privately. But I wasn't interested in revenge. I didn't want to speak. I just wanted her silence to echo back at her. That night, Darla tried calling again. She left a voicemail, her voice trembling. "Doyle, what the hell did you do? You're ruining my life. That was private. That was months ago. You're blowing this out of proportion. We were done already. I just didn't know how to tell you. You're making me look like a monster." The irony made my stomach turn. I was the one who looked like a ghost for weeks. Now she was screaming about injustice. Because the story she wrote finally flipped its pages on her. But the last message, that's the one I'll never forget. She texted me one line. "You don't come back from this, Doyle. Neither of us does." But she was wrong. I already had. 3 weeks passed after the video dropped, and in those 3 weeks, everything flipped. Darla went quiet. Not the eerie, passive-aggressive silence she once used like a scalpel. This was the kind of silence that comes when you finally run out of ways to manipulate the narrative. People stopped replying to her social posts. Her carefully curated image began to chip. Her job? From what I heard, she wasn't fired, but she was encouraged to consider a professional pause. I didn't gloat. I didn't rub it in. Because at the end of the day, it wasn't about tearing her down. It was about standing up and saying, I won't be erased. I moved out of Boyd's apartment 2 days after the lease on the old place ended. He offered to let me stay longer, but I needed space. Real space. Not just from Darla, but from the version of myself who'd lived half awake in that apartment for far too long. I found a small loft on the edge of town. Not fancy, not flashy. Just mine. The first night I slept there, I opened the windows wide, even though it was cold, and let the sound of the wind come in. It was the first silence that didn't hurt. A few days later, I ran into someone I hadn't seen in years. Her name was June, and she used to work with me back when I was doing part-time web support. We bumped into each other at a bookstore, both reaching for the same outdated mystery novel we'd already read years ago. It was awkward. It was simple. It was real. We got coffee. We talked. Not about Darla. Not about trauma. Just about how we were both trying to find solid ground again. I told her about the couch, the nightstand, the fern with the quote in it. She laughed. Not a polite laugh, but one that made the barista glance over like we were being too loud. It was the kind of laugh I hadn't heard in months. Maybe longer. The best part? She didn't try to fix me. She just listened. And when I thanked her for that, she said something that stuck with me. You don't need fixing. You were just standing in the wrong spotlight. I still think about that. One morning, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name, written in her handwriting. Inside, a short note. I guess I got what I wanted. You're gone. But it doesn't feel like a win. I hope your silence never feels as heavy as mine does now. D. I didn't respond. Not because I hated her, but because I didn't need to. She played silence like a weapon. I used it like a shield, and walked out still whole. The healing didn't come all at once. There are still nights I wake up thinking I hear the sound of her phone screen lighting up in the dark. But then I remember, that screen's not my responsibility anymore. That silence, it belongs to someone else now. And mine. My silence finally sounds like peace.